Hello, my creative and curious friends! Let's continue with the tutorial on how to create animations in Procreate. Today's lesson in particular will help you explore the simple and clean interface of the app in order to understand what its main featured tools are. We'll continue using the various tools already applied in the illustration that we've created through the previous tutorial. Now, let's proceed with the animation, exploring the user interface tools. First of all, to start creating an animation, we need to activate the Animation Assistant toggle switch by opening the Action menu from the left sidebar in the Canvas tab. The visual timeline will directly appear on our screen, allowing us to create animations through a series of simple steps. All the tools we'll need are located here, and this will allow us to swiftly manage both individual frames and the animation as a whole. Each visible layer of our document represents a frame of our animation, which can be identified through the corresponding thumbnail in the timeline. The frames are arranged in chronological order from left to right. To navigate through the timeline, we can either drag it back and forth or directly touch the frame we need. The activated frame will now be underlined in blue, and we'll see the corresponding content on our canvas in the opacity that we've set. To see a preview of the animation created, simply tap play on the timeline. We can also stop or pause the playback by simply tapping the canvas or the pause label on the timeline. To edit any frame, simply select it and then use the drawing, selection, and transformation tools of the corresponding layer. If, on the other hand, we need to start an animation from scratch or insert an empty frame after a selected one in our timeline, we will tap the Add Frame label. The same result can be achieved by adding a new layer from the Layers panel, also automatically generating a new frame on the timeline. Each frame can be edited through the Frame Options mini menu, which can be activated through an additional tap on the selected frame, and it includes the hold duration, duplicate, or delete frame commands. The hold duration command is very useful because it allows us to vary the duration of a single image, which will remain still up to a maximum of 120 frames. This way, the frame on the timeline will be repeated for the number of frames set and represented through gray thumbnails on the timeline. We can review the entire animation in preview mode to correct the timing. To cancel the hold duration setting, we'll need to drag the slider back to none. The additional duplicate or delete options either add a copy of the selected frame or delete it. For the rightmost frame on the timeline, there is also a foreground option, which allows us to view one frame over the top of any other frame on the animation. Any layer created after will always appear to the left of the foreground frame. In the Layers panel, this layer will be locked in the upper position, and to unlock it, you'll have to tap the foreground toggle again, so as to revert the foreground frame back into a normal one. We can also create an animation background, which will be placed underneath all the other layers, and will be visible for the entire duration of the animation. In this case, we start by tapping on the leftmost frame. In its optional menu, we'll find the background toggle to be activated. By assigning the background option to a frame, its corresponding layer will be locked in the bottom position, and all frames created after will be added to its right. We can always remove the background option, toggling the switch back to its initial position. We'll now learn to manage the timing, appearance, and attributes of our animation as a whole. The Settings menu on the timeline will support us through this, helping us to control the entire sequence. To manage the animation speed, we can set the frames per second, dragging the timer from a minimum of 1 to a maximum of 60. The typical animation has about 12 frames per second, whereas an animation of a more cinema quality can have up to 24. The greater the number of frames per second, the smoother the animation will be. We can speed up the animation by reducing the number of frames, or slow it down by adding more intermediate frames. To help us create the animation sequence, it is useful to use the onion skin option by setting it from the menu. This option will allow us to have an overview of the animation, therefore a certain number of frames around a current frame with a set progressive transparency. We can increase the progressive visibility of the frames up to a maximum of 12, or set to none to show only the current frame. The progressive visibility of the frames can be set by dragging the onion skin opacity slider from a minimum of 0 to a maximum of 100, meaning from a total invisibility of the adjacent frames up to a point in which they are almost totally solid. It's possible to make the appearance of the main frame of the onion skin more blended and transparent by activating the Blend Primary Frame slider, which by default appears solid. To make the main frame stand out even more compared to the secondary frames of the onion skin, let's activate Color Secondary Frames. In this case, the secondary frames that are ahead of the current primary frame will appear in green, while those behind in red. The first three options in the Settings menu, namely Loop, Ping-pong, and One Shot, are related to the playback repeatability of the entire animation. Loop allows you to create a continuous cycle of playback from start to finish that will always repeat itself. Animated GIFs have this type of playback. Ping-pong allows you to have an additional playback with respect to the normal one, but in reverse order, thus creating a real ping-pong effect. One Shot starts the animation playback only once, without any further repetition. Once the work has been completed, let's export our animation in one of the formats offered by the application. From the Share tab of the Actions menu in the left sidebar. The available formats are Animated GIF, PNG, MP4, and HEVC. All of these allow us to choose between max resolution or web ready. We can also adjust the number of frames per second before sharing a file. The transparent background can only be set for animated GIF, PNG, and HEVC formats. While for the GIF extension, it's possible to activate differing and use a color palette per frame. Exporting animated GIFs is mostly used for web pages. PNG is a heavier file type because it allows for transparent elements and a higher visual quality when compared to animated GIFs. In addition, GIF and PNG formats loop by default. MP4 is a less heavy format with smaller dimensions, as it uses JPG encoding for each frame. The size of a HEVC file is smaller than the GIF and PNG formats. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching my tutorial. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments which other graphics software you'd be curious to learn. Also, please subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram so as not to miss many new and interesting projects. Bye! See you next time.